this list is absurd. It would be like if ESPN put out their list of top 75 or top 100 NBA players, which they do from time to time, and they didn't include Michael Jordan or LeBron.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to leave off Michael Jordan and LeBron. You're just like, what the fuck? Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Nick Morgasen. This is another edition of Moving the Goalposts. You can follow the show across social media at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMartinick at NMorgasen Radio. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network. And you can listen to Moving the Goalposts wherever you get your podcasts. And you can this show, and make sure to like and subscribe. Almost forgot that. And this podcast is presented by Playback. Stay tuned for later in the show to find out more. All right. So we have a lot of sports media stories to get to, specifically involving ESPN. So ESPN apparently bought RedZone, not just RedZone, but like a whole bunch of like NFL
media.
So now this means NFL Network is owned by ESPN. RedZone is owned by ESPN. And I don't know how big of a deal this is going to be.
It's huge. It's a huge deal.
But how much will it? The question is, how much will it like affect the programming of these shows?
A lot.
So, like, what will NFL RedZone look like? Because I saw something on Twitter where apparently NFL RedZone won't be commercial free anymore. I don't know if that's true. I mean, RedZone not being commercial free would just cease to be RedZone. You might as well call it something else.
Well, you saw the BS that they tried to pull at the end of last season, where they tried to leave up some of the side-by-side commercials, like while they were doing. Apparently, that was the NFL trying to test if they could flip small commercials in.
It's like when politicians put out little feelers to see how the public responds to something. That's what NFL RedZone did.
Correct. Now, here's the issue that comes in. So you have that new D2C consumer platform, that's direct-to-consumer platform that's coming for ESPN, called ESPN. I don't know. They couldn't come up with a creative name for it. But it's going to have a bunch of like extra programming and some exclusive programming and all this stuff. It's going to be $30 a month. It's kind of like what ESPN Plus and a bunch of this other stuff is. Well, apparently RedZone and NFL Network and a bunch of NFL media properties are going to go on this D2C platform, which is going to cost $30 a month to be on. Right now, I think RedZone is like $10 a month directly from the NFL media programming.
Well, I think you can get it through your cable provider too, right?
Yeah, so I have it through YouTube TV. I got it for $10 a month, which is actually not bad in the scheme of things.
Right.
But it's now probably going to be on a $30 a month platform.
But it's only for like 4 months. It's not for long, right? You don't pay for it throughout the year.
I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't know. But, I mean, you could put a payment plan on it and pay through the whole year. But, I don't know. Everyone's concerned because what's the first thing that people said when ESPN got RedZone? Is Stephen A. or Pat McAfee going to go on RedZone and destroy it? I'm like, no.
There's no evidence of that. First of all, it's probably still going to be Scott Hansen. They're not firing everybody.
All they're doing is buying out the NFL media stuff. Because in the long road of the scheme of things, the NFL wanted to get out of the media business. They just don't want to be in it. They want to be in the TV rights business. They want to be in the consumer business. They don't want to make the media. They want to give the rights and make the money rather than doing the work.
Right.
Like, I was very surprised way back when, I think like in 2003, I think is when NFL Network came to be a network, and they went out and they hired Rich Eisen away from ESPN as the first employee. And that was the whole thing. And it's ironic now because Rich Eisen is now back with ESPN. His show's going to be on their national radio platform. The show's going to be simulcast to ESPN Plus and Disney Plus and all these platforms. I don't think that was an accident, by the way.
Right. No, I agree.
So it's a huge deal, but is there a conflict of interest involved in this? Because does that mean that ESPN is going to get money from the CBS, the Foxes, the NBCs, like part of those deals? And will they get the insider stories before everybody else now, since they own the NFL media properties?
I mean, I think, I guess that's an interesting question. I guess it's substantially different than showing games on your channel because they're owning the league or owning the media, the NFL media. Um, the short answer is I just don't know because we've never. I guess the other question would be,
this is unprecedented, by the way.
Right. It seems, at least for now, it's unprecedented. I would say the real question is because like them getting inside stories before everybody else. I guess that's one interesting question. I don't know if that means that they would just because they own it.
Well, I'm talking about just from the NFL might feed it to ESPN because it lines their pockets because now they're together. On top of it, the NFL is getting a 10% stake of ESPN for making the deal. So they're in bed. Let's just admit it. They're in bed with ESPN.
Well, I don't think that's the question. I don't think that's the question. I think the real question is how will it affect the ESPN's coverage of the NFL?
Oh, they're going to get more.
That's the question. Well, they already cover it a lot. Like,
no. I'm saying they're going to get more TV games, I think, because of this. I think that they're already in the Super Bowl cycle. When's the last time ABC or ESPN was in the Super Bowl cycle? You'd have to go back like over a decade.
I don't remember the Super Bowl ever being on ABC.
Many years ago. Many years ago. It was on ABC. But because ESPN had so many issues with the league, they just kicked them out of the cycle. Well, they didn't want them.
But the question I was posing was how will it affect ESPN's coverage of the league? Like in the sense that, like, remember 10 years ago when the Ray Rice thing came out and that was a big story and it was all about criticism of the NFL? How would that affect coverage of that? And it might not affect it much at all, but I don't really know that. I mean, I guess the most comparable thing would be maybe like radio stations that broadcast that like local radio stations that have like that are the local station for like local teams or something like that, or like
local coverage. Yeah.
Or like shows on like say the Yes Network or SNY, because like they basically own the Mets, the Yankees and the Mets respectively.
Yes.
I think that would be like the most comparable.
The one thing I do want to read though, because you were asking the question before, the network is expected to absorb the aforementioned RedZone NFL network, which is headquartered in California. So they're going to take over all of that and to take on its slate of games. So whatever games are on NFL Network are now going to become ESPN games.
Okay. I mean, I don't really care about that.
Well, that's a big deal because a lot of times the NFL Network games are usually bigger slate games, usually that they get. So they're going to take in more inventory, ESPN, more advertiser money.
But it's equally accessible. If you have access to NFL Network, I'm sure you have access to ESPN.
But I'm talking about more from a perspective of they get the ratings, they get the social media. The NFL's a big product. If you can air more games, you're going to take advantage to air more games.
Yeah, but I get that, but I just don't think it's significant in the media battle, obviously, for ESPN. I don't think it's significant for the viewer, which is really what I'm concerned about.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting dilemma. What I did hear also, and Andrew Martian has talked about it many times, is that basically NFL Network is going to go under the D2C platform. So NFL Network is going to exist, but it's going to be on that direct-to-consumer platform that you would have to pay the $30 a month to see. But it's going to be mixed talents, meaning you're going to see ESPN talent end up on NFL Network stuff, and NFL Network talent are going to end up on ESPN programming. It makes sense if they're going to acquire all the assets to keep as many of the people as they can. Now, is there going to be a bloodbath in the works because of it? Because you're not going to be able to keep every employee when you absorb a company. You and I know that very well. Like, look what happened to ESPN when they laid off 300 people twice. I mean, so do I expect every employee to make it in this deal or transaction or whatever you want to call it? No. But getting NFL Network, getting NFL Media, I heard they're requiring NFL fantasy stuff, which is a big deal as well from the gambling perspective, because everything's about gambling now.
Yeah.
This is significant by every shape. I don't think I've ever seen a deal like this with a league basically going in and partnering in this type of way.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it either. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So we're going to end up seeing like a lot of ESPN talent on NFL Network. I mean, to tell you the truth, if that ends up being true, does it even really matter that much? Like, if I went the rest of my life without watching NFL Network, I don't think I'd even care. The only time I ever watch NFL Network is if there's a game exclusively on NFL Network. So if I had access to all the same games, I personally wouldn't care. And by the way, I don't think the NFL Network games, like, I don't think the broadcasts are all that good.
Well, it used to be, at least way back when, like Fox, I know, had the partnership agreement with the NFL Network. NBC had it at one point. So whoever was the production for the game on NFL Network was the broadcasters that they used. So it's all a matter of who they want calling the games. Like the weird thing going on now is the YouTube game that they have, I think in week 1 on Friday. They want Rich Eisen calling the game. I don't understand what the fascination with Rich Eisen calling games is. He called the international game, I think, last year or the last 2 years. But
I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to watch a game that's being broadcast in a funeral home.
Really?
I mean, look, I don't care. I don't watch games for the broadcasters anyway. I mean, like a lot of people talk about how they watch a lot of people, like you would see on social media, say they watch games on mute because Joe Buck is doing the game.
That's silly.
Nobody watches the game on mute because Joe Buck does the game.
That's silly.
Like, there have been I think that some color analysts are really bad. I think that Dan Fouts was like one of the worst color analysts I've
Tony
ever seen.
Romo.
No, I love Tony Romo.
He can be a little annoying.
Some people find him annoying. I think Tony Romo's great because he's so enthusiastic.
Well, he's good. He knows the game better than anybody. But
right. He knows the game really well. And he's very, like, he brought like kind of a new style to it. And like Dan Fouts, for instance, I always thought was a really bad announcer. It was really
terrible.
Terrible. But I didn't care that much because I'm not watching the game for the announcers. I'm watching the game because I want to watch the game.
Well, I think it's just the perspective now because we're so worried about what everybody thinks of how we sound when when we're broadcasting a game, or like this when we're doing a podcast, or we're doing a short clip. Everyone cares about the personality of how we sound. Why do you think everyone wants Mad Dog on their airwaves? Because of his personality.
Right, but that's different. It's different when you're listening to a podcast or watching a show because you're watching for the people that are on it. That's the only reason you're watching it. Whereas you're watching a football game to watch the football game, and the broadcasters have a role in that, but you're not watching it for the broadcaster. That's the difference.
I can diffuse that with one argument, though, because ESPN was the worst booth in the NFL until Buck and Aikman, and they paid the king's ransom to bring Buck and Aikman over to ESPN. They are now the number 1 rated booth in the NFL.
Well,
now,
I'm not saying it doesn't affect anything. I mean, also, it's hard to say because a lot of complex things affect ratings. Like, I'm not saying that having bad broadcasters will not affect the ratings at all. But the point is that you're watching it for the game primarily and not for the broadcaster. Whereas let's say First Take's ratings go down. That's squarely on Stephen A. Smith because that's the only reason people watch First Take is for Stephen A. Smith.
What is the biggest joke at ESPN? They say we're using the shows as vehicles to get to the next broadcast, next game. That's always the big joke that goes around there, except for First Take, which does insane ratings. But It's how do I get to the next football game? How do I get to the next NBA game? How do I get to the next hockey game, MLB game?
Yeah.
They don't care about the programming in between. That the games are what makes money for them.
Well, they do care about the programming because the rating, if people aren't watching, there's no lead in. That's
no. But my point is that they care mostly about games because that's what everyone is turning on networks to watch. Like,
right.
Are you really going to sit and watch 2 hours of First Take?
No.
That's my point. Like, you might tune in for a 7 to 8 minute segment from time to time to see if Stephen A is going to tear somebody's head off from time to time, but you're not going to sit and watch 2 hours of First Take.
I don't know. Like, it is unbelievable to me because that these shows are so big and that there's such a big audience because it's like, who in the world has time to watch TV during the day?
You know, that show is so big that Stephen A is the executive producer now of First Take. Like, that's how big that show is. So basically, he can hire and he can fire on top of whatever the pinheads up above say.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. It's the opposite. It really should be your lead-in should be perfected so that people go and watch the games. ESPN, it's the opposite. They care more about the games and screw the lead-in. We're just going to make sure the game is the best product. But if you have nothing to lead into it, who cares?
But the point is the shows are the lead-in.
Right. No, I agree. But I'm saying, like, if you notice during the NFL season, like they have NFL Live or they have Fantasy Football Now, which is kind of a ridiculous program, if you ask me, because they spend like they have that 4-hour block before the 1 p.m. window. 2 hours of it is fantasy football, and then the 11 to 1 is leading up into the kickoffs.
I mean, look, fantasy football is super popular.
Oh no, I'm not doubting that, but that's the only time they care about the lead-ins when the NFL is on. They don't do this for the NBA. They don't do this for major. Well, let me take that back. ESPN years ago, when they had a good relationship with baseball, had Baseball Tonight, which was a huge program for decades, and then they killed it.
I was actually on the set of Baseball Tonight one time because when I took a tour of ESPN, this was many, many years ago. When Baseball Tonight was still on and I saw the whole thing. It was crazy walking around.
It looks like a baseball field on the inside.
Oh, it does. Yeah, and it was crazy just walking around ESPN headquarters. I remember I saw, it was like right around the preseason. It was like about 11 years ago at this point.
Was this Bristol too?
Yeah. It was in Bristol, Connecticut.
So you were in the authentic ESPN, as I like to call it.
Yeah, and it is weird to me that ESPN, like the world leader in sports, is in the middle of fucking nowhere.
It's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like it's a bunch of forest and trees, and I think there's a hotel like right next to it for people who come in.
Like if ESPN offered me a job, I would second guess it because of where it is. Am I going to move to Connecticut and like uproot my whole life just to work at ESPN? Like,
but the thing is, you don't really have to do that anymore because now most of their headquarters is in New York.
That's true. It's a little different now.
It used to be LA until they killed everything in LA, like Sports Center. But they still have NBA's programming, NBA Today, and all that stuff out in LA. Now it's going to be interesting to see where they put RedZone and if they're going to have to move studios or if they're going to still do it out of where he's doing it currently in the Inglewood studios up there in Los Angeles. I don't know if they're going to buy the actual location, but it's going to be interesting.
I don't think it'll make much of a difference. It all probably look the same to us, to the viewers.
Well, yeah, because they can Chrome key everything and make it look the same. But this is a fascinating deal because you don't see leagues very often come to you and say, would you buy our media rights? Would you buy NFL Network, our league operated channel, by the way, which how often do you hear that as often? And say, we'll give you everything, including the NFL Network games that we had. We'll give them to you too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, it's a bizarre, it's unprecedented.
We're talking about a $2 billion-ish deal. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. And I have very limited understanding of it because I don't know all that much about sports business. I mean, both of us have sort of limited understanding of it compared to how we understand something.
I mean, we might know more than the average person.
Right, because we care about it. We pay attention to it. But like we're not in the business exactly.
No,
We don't understand it that well.
Right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. And some more ESPN news. Shannon Sharpe was fired from ESPN. I guess this isn't really surprising.
This is not surprising one iota whatsoever.
I mean, it is kind of sad because Shannon Sharpe is a legitimate TV star. I think you could argue he's a better television personality than he was a football player. And he's a Hall of Fame football player. I mean, like, he's that good on TV. And I've said before, I think that, like, I don't think most former athletes are very good on TV, but Shannon Sharpe is one of the few that actually really is.
Yeah. I mean, this would be a great case study for sports law, actually, because if you look at the situation and how it was kind of established, because when we saw the news come out, this woman comes out and says, well, Shannon Sharpe did this and that and forced me to do this. But you knew it was going to be over as soon as all that stuff came out, because one, there's two issues. Either, well, if it's true, it's going to tarnish him. If it's not true, the reputation follows you regardless.
Right.
Now, I did read a report apparently that ESPN was very close to offering him like $100 million deal to do more work at ESPN. But because he can't keep his hands to himself, allegedly, and needs to be with younger women all the time.
But, like, the age part is not really what mattered. It was, like, the whole, like, consensual part that mattered.
We're never going to know the full extent because they came to a agreement behind the scenes. He's paying like $23 million to make this go away.
Yeah. And in fairness, a lot of people say that, like, if you settle, that means you're guilty. That's not true.
That's not 100% true.
It's just a mathematical equation from their lawyers. Their lawyers come to them and say, and basically say, look, here's the probability that when it comes to civil cases, they're going to say, okay, here's the probability that the jury will side with you or that they'll side with them, and here's what we should do based on that probability. It's not about whether or not they actually did it, because in civil court, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. Like criminal court, it's preponderance of the evidence.
Now, he was originally being sued for $50 million. Let's go back that timeline. So I guess in the scheme of things, agreeing to $23 million is way less than he had to pay. Now, would I say it's a full admission of guilt? Absolutely not. But if you're settling, that means you're admitting to some portion of something.
No, it doesn't really mean. I would say it doesn't mean you're admitting to anything. It just means that, like, it just means that your lawyer said to you, here's the probability of them finding you. I mean, I don't think that acknowledging that a jury in a civil case might find you guilty is exactly the same as saying that I did it. It is the same as admitting to it.
No, I get it. But if you're so confident in yourself that you don't think you did anything, why not fight the case then?
Because like I said, it's the mathematical, like I said before, it's the mathematical equation. Your lawyer comes to you and says, here's the probability of them finding you guilty, as opposed to if you just pay this amount of money, he probably, you're going to lose $50 million if they find you guilty. And there's a 50% chance this happens.
But you're saying what I'm saying then, which is basically that there is some partial admission of guilt by settling.
It's not partial admission of guilt. It's partial admission of, like,
I might have done something.
No, it's more partial admission of, I mean, look, that could very much equate to partial admission of guilt, but it's really essentially partial admission of it seems credible. Like, if it was not credible at all that nobody would believe, then no, he wouldn't settle, obviously. That's all it really is.
It also doesn't help that the woman was, she's young. She was 19 years old when this happened, and he's 57. I mean,
definitely, probably younger than his own kids.
Yeah, and also, here's one thing that I will tell you that I don't like about this. A certain lawyer was involved.
Tony Busby.
Yes.
Which, by the way, sounds like a professional wrestler's name.
It does, or a scam real estate agent. But basically, I don't like him because he basically will use social media to make people look bad in that regard. Also, like, I've been on his social medias. Like, he's on yachts half the time, and like, Is he making that much money as a
Lawyers
lawyer?
make a lot of money. These high-profile lawyers.
Is he a high-profile lawyer? I don't mean from a idiocy standpoint. I'm talking about
a high-profile lawyer. You wouldn't call Tony Busby a high-profile lawyer?
I call him a high-profile asshole. If you really want my opinion.
Well, he's the same. He's the Deshaun Watson lawyer. He's the same guy you brought.
Yes. No, 100%. He represented all the women against Deshaun Watson.
Except I think Deshaun Watson, it's far more credible.
Well, yes, because there's what was there, like 15 women that came out against him? Like
more.
I think it was more. But my point is, in the long or short of this, first of all, Shannon Sharpe's not going to suffer by any means by being fired or. I mean, I guess I don't know if it's technically fired because I don't know if his contract was up based on what he was doing. I don't know, but
they just signed him.
But I don't know if it was like a temporary deal and then they had to re-up. I don't know.
Oh, right.
But he's got 2 successful podcasts right now. He's got Nightcap with Chad Ochocinco, which, by the way, is another issue in itself, and Club Shay Shay, which is probably one of the most successful podcasts out there right now. So if you think Shannon Sharpe is hurting for money by any means,
it's okay, but he's getting substantially less money than he otherwise would have.
I don't know if I agree with that because
you don't agree with that. You don't think that him losing, first of all, how much was the settlement? Do we know?
23.
Okay, so $23 million.
Allegedly 23. Yeah.
Okay, but let's just say he's shelling out $23 million and he lost the contract from ESPN. That cost him like over $100 million. That's
first of all, he's got a huge deal with DraftKings. He's got a bunch of sponsors.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be fine. But the point is that it's still costing him like over $100 million. That's pretty significant.
Well, I don't know if that, first of all, that's not confirmed. That's reports I read that ESPN was going to offer him like a huge deal to possibly bring the podcasts and all that stuff. But I don't know if that's true. That's just reports I read, but he'll be fine. Those 2 podcasts by themselves make a lot of money behind the scenes. So and like I said, he was on the volume for a long period of time before Club Shay Shay went to free agency, and
Colin Cowherd couldn't afford to pay him.
But it probably hurt his case when this settlement issue came out as a liability concern. That's why people were not willing to pay $100 million to bring his podcasts in.
Yeah, I think that like the thing with Shannon Sharpe, it seems to me like he just never grew up.
I think he just wants to date younger women.
Yeah, no, but like that's what I'm saying. Like it seems like he just never really grew up and just lived wild his whole life.
It seems like everyone's living the Bill Belichick lifestyle.
No, but this is like far like there's no allegations against Bill Belichick. It's just
that's true.
You're right. Weird. He's not doing anything unethical. But whereas Shannon Sharpe is being accused, like the thing is that it's not just about the money with Shannon Sharpe. It's his personal reputation and him being dragged through. Like whether it's true or not is just him being dragged through the mud.
Well, here's another thing that bothered me too. So, do you remember when Shannon Sharpe put the video out after the allegations came out and he said that he was the target of a shakedown? Do you remember that video? It doesn't look very good after you say that I'm part of a shakedown that you then settle for $23 million.
I don't agree. I'm not saying that like I necessarily think he's innocent. I don't think that him settling actually, if anything, I think it's the opposite. But I think that if you agree to it, like if you end up, if he says it's a shakedown and he ends up agreeing to just settle and make it go away, in a weird way, you can make the opposite argument, which is that it kind of like.
But I just find it odd. I find it odd that he would call it a shakedown because that's implying that you're going to go full in and fight it. And then you settle for that amount of money, by the way.
Yeah. But you also have to remember, though, like people think it's not exact. Like I understand why celebrities with a lot of money end up doing that because they want to make the case. They want to make it go away. And their lawyer comes to them and they, I would say, advise them on what decision to make. And that's really just how it works. It's a mathematical equation. All it means is that all it means is, like I said, is that it's credible. It can be credible to a jury in a civil court. That's really all it is.
I also thought it was funny, by the way, when he came out after and did his whole spiel, excuse me, on how he got let go from ESPN. He's like, guys, I wish you would have held off on this news so that my brother didn't have to deal with all the nonsense for going off. Like, you really think the news cycle is going to hold off for you?
It also is like, it's also his brother. It's not him. I don't know. It's a little bit of a.
I mean, it is kind of cool though. For the first time that you see two brothers in the Hall of Fame, that's kind of cool. But did you really think the news cycle was going to wait until after the Hall of Fame to say you were gone due to these reasons? Hell no.
Like, I think if anything, he should like blame himself.
Yeah, no shit. Of course, he should blame himself
for being in for getting himself into such stupid situations.
He could be living I mean, he's already living the high life, but like he could be making even more money if it wasn't for his stupidity.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we were saying. And I will say, there have been rumors about Shannon Sharpe like abusing women for
forever,
a really long time.
Forever.
They haven't really quite gotten to this level, but it eventually catches up to you. It really just does.
Well, you don't think some of these high-profile players pay to make stuff go away? They do that all the time.
They do, but a lot of times they do. But usually, like if you're a habitual offender,
no, I agree totally.
It's going to catch up to you.
I mean, it just did. It did catch up. He probably lost $100 million because of it.
Like it's probably going to catch up to you. So just all I can say is just take this as a lesson that how you treat people will eventually will probably come to light. Moving the goalposts is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, rubbing your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. Speaking of contracts, I feel like every single topic involves contracts. So Terry McLaurin is in a contract dispute with the Commanders. And from what I understand, is that he wants DK Metcalf money. And I am very sympathetic to Terry McLaurin. I am more sympathetic to Terry McLaurin than I am to Micah Parsons. And I think that Terry McLaurin is not even arguably, at least based on his production, one of the more underpaid very underpaid, like criminally underpaid.
He's been there through all the tough times too, like all the quarterbacks, all the BS. Like this guy's an incredible quarterback, good fantasy receiver too. By the way, like he catches passes like that. It's rare to find someone who's consistent a catcher as he is, and a tough throw catcher too. Like so this is dumb. I mean, pay the man. You need him if you're going to continue to succeed.
All right. So and I think a lot of this has to do with Deebo Samuel. So the Washington just brought in Deebo Samuel, and they're paying Deebo Samuel more money than they're paying Terry McLaurin. I mean, Deebo Samuel can't even stay healthy.
Was that left over though from whatever trade they made, or no?
I'm not sure.
I think he was traded to the Commanders, so it's whatever was left over on the contract.
No, but the point is though, is that his view is, well, if you can pay Deebo Samuel this much money, then you should be able to pay me this much money.
Well,
now,
who says the Commanders are paying all of it? Also,
you're saying the 49ers might still be paying it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know that for a fact, but usually when you make these type of trades, you're not taking on all the money. The Commanders are taking all the risk with him being older as a player. Yeah. Now, I do think that Deebo brings a uniqueness that most wide receivers don't, where he can run the ball off the offensive line.
Right.
So I think there is some value. But Terry McLaurin, excuse me, mouthful of a name. he is one of the best. He's probably, I would say, in the top 3 or 4 wide receivers right now in the NFL. I would probably say Jefferson is probably number 1, I think, by far.
Maybe Jamar Chase.
Well, okay, so Jefferson and Chase would probably battle the number 1 and number 2, and then I'd probably put McLaurin right after. So
maybe I'd say he's at least top 5, but
they need him.
Here's the thing, though. Terry McLaurin is the 17th highest paid wide receiver.
How is that possible?
Like, he's the 17th. I mean, just for the sake of clarity, here's some players that are paid more than him. Michael Pittman Jr.
What?
Michael Pittman Jr., Garrett Wilson.
Well, he just got paid.
I know. DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk.
He's hurt.
I mean, Jalen Waddle is DJ Moore is paid more money than
That's
Terry
bad.
McLaurin.
That's bad.
It's not even arguable that relative to his production, Terry McLaurin is very underpaid. Now, I understand why NFL players do this because NFL careers are uniquely short.
What is the average? It's like 3.5, 4 years is what they say.
It's a very short amount of time. And wide receivers and running backs, I mean, especially running backs, but wide receivers too, to an extent, very much fall off in their 30s. So they want to make as much money as they possibly can while they still can. So I can't really blame this. I can't really blame Terry McLaurin for this.
Now, if I know correctly, because I know for the Parsons situation, but McLaurin is what they call holding in, not holding out.
Correct.
Because
so is Parsons.
No, that's what I'm saying. I know Parsons was holding in. I don't know if McLaurin was doing the same thing. Because in case people don't know what we're talking about, holding in was kind of a new phrase. That way you don't get fined and you show up to camp. You just sit on the side and do nothing, essentially. I know Parsons was doing that. I don't know if McLaurin's doing that. But I think he showed up to camp, finally. I think McLaurin brings a heck of a lot of value to Jaden Daniels. He needs him to succeed. If you don't have McLaurin out there as your number 1, they might lose 4 or 5 wins off of that without him being on the roster.
Yeah, it really could. I mean, I don't know how much. I don't know if it would affect it that much, but we don't. It would probably affect it a lot because the Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels is still a very young quarterback, so he needs good targets. I mean, he's a very good quarterback, but he's still very young.
You got to be careful for the sophomore slump, second year.
Right. That's the biggest thing. And also, it's like, part of me, like, just looking at the Commanders this year, I feel like Jaden Daniels might be set up to fail a little bit. Because it's going to be very hard for the Commanders to top what they did last year, making it to the NFC Championship. Even if they end up having a pretty good year,
they shouldn't have won either.
No, but the point is, I mean, I think that if Jared Goff doesn't end up getting a concussion, it's possible the Commanders end up losing that game.
No, but I'm saying they played very well, regardless of whatever the outcome was.
Yeah,
but I think that McLaurin and Debo actually help one another in this situation because they spread the field out much more for Jaden to even run the football at times.
Yeah, so, no, absolutely. And also the Commanders are very specifically an offense team. Like they were good because of their offense. Their
they need help.
Wasn't great.
They need help defensively in the worst way.
They do leave a lot to be desired, and they could have pretty easily lost that game to the Bucs.
Well, how many times has Jaden Daniels had to use his feet multiple times to score just to keep them in ball games? I mean,
so I mean, to me, if you don't bring back Terry McLaurin, I mean, it's almost a guaranteed sophomore slump. At least the perception of a sophomore slump for Jaden.
No, I would say they're screwed without McLaurin at this point. If they don't have, here's what's going to happen. Excuse me. What's going to happen is it's going to spin. The wheels are going to spin. Eventually, it's going to get closer to week 1. They're going to realize, oh shit, we need McLaurin on this roster. Just pay him. That's eventually what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen too. But to me, that just looks like a clown show of an organization of what they're doing right now.
Speaking of clown cars, I don't know. Contract disputes a few weeks before the season starts. That seems to be a much more popular thing that happens now than it has in the past. These guys are willing to miss games. and willing to miss training camp, which then screws them for the first couple weeks to get back on the field.
Well, because I would argue probably because the players have more leverage now.
Yes and no, but now they're holding in, sitting at camp rather than holding out and getting fined.
No, but the point is that they have leverage over, like they have more leverage. I feel like a guy like Terry McLaurin has a lot of leverage.
I think he's got more leverage than the next guy we're going to talk about, though.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
His contract dispute with Dallas. I have a lot more sympathy for Terry McLaurin than I do for Micah Parsons, although I think both of them are underpaid for their production. I mean, Micah Parsons is extremely underpaid he's like the sixth. I did the math. I think he's like the 65th highest paid edge rusher. I mean, like are you going to argue he's the 65th best edge rusher?
No.
I mean, he's extremely underpaid, but it seems like, from my understanding, that Micah Parsons' demands are much higher than Terry McLaurin's demands, right?
First of all, he's making $24 million. So, I'm tired of these players who are bitching and moaning about money. You're making $24 million going into the season. I get it. The numbers are getting higher. And
I don't think he's making $24 million.
It says in 2025, Micah Parsons' salary will be $24 million.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's true then. Yeah, okay, maybe you're correct.
Yeah, Spot Track has him listed as $24 million. He probably wants like a 5-year, I don't know, 5-year 150. Is that probably what he's looking for? Probably.
I don't know, but I think he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback. Isn't that what he's looking at?
Yeah, he is. But here's the issue. So you have a owner who's a head case and would rather have more attention on TV than his football team. He went off on comments on Micah Parsons again. I can't even remember. Do you remember the comments that he made? He did this last time with Dak. He made some ridiculous comments. But we all know how this is going to end. Like it's going to be drama. We saw it happen with CeeDee Lamb, where CeeDee Lamb, I think, missed a bunch of training camp. And I think even missed the first, or was very close to missing game 1 of the season last year because of it.
CeeDee Lamb, I would say CeeDee Lamb ranks higher as a receiver than Micah Parsons does as an edge rusher.
No, I agree. But I'm just saying, these are big guys on your roster that you need to compete. By the way, I think they overpaid Dak by every...
Of course they did. I mean, the thing is that, apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but is it true? According to Jerry Jones, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, but according to Jerry Jones, he offered Micah Parsons $200 million.
You're talking about the comments that came out the other day where they wrote it on a napkin or whatever, and
back in March.
He's represented by Rock Nation, right? I think Jay-Z's company.
Micah Parsons?
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
Think so. I could be wrong about that.
Because I saw them come out because Jerry made an accusation of something, and then Rock Nation Sports came out and said that Jerry's comments are completely outrageous and false.
Yeah, so I don't know who's telling the truth. I mean, if it's true that Micah Parsons turned down $200 million, that's insane.
But again, we don't know where the negotiating table was at. We have no idea what was going on between the two sides. Was Jerry fooling around like he always does in these negotiations? He basically is calling it a circus act, what Micah Parsons is doing. And no, Jerry, you want to know what the circus act is? You as an owner and a GM running the Cowboys organization. You care more about the documentary about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, or you care more about your TV time or doing your radio show than putting a team on the field that hasn't won since 1990.
But don't you think? Okay, but if it's true, if Jerry Jones' side of the story is true that he offered him $200 million or nearly $200 million,
but there's no confirmation of that, though.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's. I'm just saying if that's true, then I would say Micah Parsons is crazy for not taking it. And not only that, but that would be an overpay.
If that was a concrete offer and he turned that down, then he's the biggest idiot of all time for turning down that offer. Because how often do you see $200 million show up on your doorstep? You don't.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to look that up because I have heard some of that. But if that deal was on the table and there was a contract there, then take it. You're not going to see $200 million in the NFL just pop up out of nowhere.
Not unless you're a quarterback.
That's true.
If it's true, the point I'm making is that if it's, and it seems like that Micah Parsons is demanding to be like extremely overpaid. That's what it seems like his demands are.
So I'm looking at pass rushers. So Myles Garrett, who just signed a recent contract, 4 years, 160. Max Crosby, 3 years, 106.5. TJ Watt, 3 years, 123. I'm just looking through the numbers, but those are the three biggest deals on the pass rusher side. So,
like, should Micah Parsons be paid more money than Myles Garrett? Are you kidding me?
So here's what you were saying. So Parsons took that offer off the table. Jones said Jones would not divulge specific details of the agreement, but made a reference to, quote, guaranteeing somebody almost $200 million in comments over the weekend.
200 million.
What you were saying, the $200 million contract. So he's not saying that directly, but he's kind of detailing it without saying it.
Right.
If there was a $200 million contract, he's an asshole for turning it down.
Right.
I'm just going to say that now.
True. If that's true.
If that's 100% true, and I don't know what to believe with Jerry Jones these days because he loves the camera. We all know Jerry Jones loves the camera. If he could have 24/7 of Jerry Jones just talking, he would.
I mean, by the way, the thing is, I don't think it would have been a crazy idea to even trade Micah Parsons earlier this year.
Now, you all know that this is in Jerry's wheelhouse. So Micah asked for a trade request, and Jerry Jones is just going to live it up because he's basically going to take it as I won because he's requesting a trade when in essence you're hurting the team in that regard. Now, he could go help any team. You're going to get all the other teams in the NFL lining up. And I would even say, hey, Jets, make that call, by the way.
Yeah.
But
that would be interesting.
I'm just saying, like, any team would take him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I agree. I do want to talk about this story. Daryl Morey made comments on LeBron's 2020 title. And to me, I think people seem to be misconstruing what he actually said.
I heard about this.
So he said, everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship. Talking about LeBron's, talking about
the Disney bubble,
the bubble championship. Now, in fairness, I saw on First Things First that Nick Wright clarified with Daryl Morey what he actually said. And Daryl Morey wasn't saying that he agrees with that. He's saying that that's just the popular opinion of people that he's talked to privately, but he doesn't agree with that. So
what was the quote?
Right. Like, Daryl Morey is not saying, I believe that his title was illegitimate. He's saying the people I talk to privately say that. That's the difference. Like, so him saying that, you're making a face, but like there's a difference between saying I believe this and saying the people I talk to all believe this.
Well,
Daryl Morey's point was that I don't agree with them. His point was that's what people are saying.
I guess my logical reasoning, because you and I have worked in the media and we've seen this many times, why get involved? Why even make a statement? Because you know you're going to get misconstrued. Just leave it alone.
Okay, but the point I'm making is that, like, the media can at least, like, listen to what he actually had to say and not make it sound like he's saying this is what the people around me are saying. Like,
no, that's fine. That's fine, totally. If he's just saying that this is what I've heard from behind the scenes, we hear this all the time. Like when Shams Charania from ESPN will talk to all the GMs and they say, "Oh, this is what I'm hearing from inside the GM's conversation." Like, if he's just saying this is what I heard, then that's hearsay. Basically, It's just confirming that that's what I heard.
Okay, but like, does that surprise you at all that like a lot of people think it's not legitimate because it was in the bubble? Like, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think it's a dumb argument. It's as legitimate as any other title.
Oh no, actually, I'm 100% in agreement. I don't think it's a legitimate title.
Why is it not legitimate?
Because it's all being. You're not traveling back and forth. There's no differences. There's no home and away. There's no.
That's true. Okay, but that's true for everybody else. Everybody else also could have taken advantage of that.
I think there's it.
So like why is it illegitimate? That wasn't only true for the Lakers. That was true for everybody.
No, but I'm just saying that I think, first of all, even if the Lakers or the Bucks or the Warriors won, I would have said it was an illegitimate title for anyone. I would have said.
Why is it illegitimate because there's no traveling when in reality that was true for every single team? To me, it's only illegitimate if they had an unfair advantage. But that was true for everybody. So for everybody saying it's illegitimate because there wasn't traveling, well, why didn't any other team just take advantage of it? It's like the torpedo bats. Any team can use the torpedo bats, not just the Yankees.
Well, no, that I agree with. The torpedo bats argument is stupid.
But it's the same thing with the bubble. It's the same thing with the bubble. Every other team could have taken advantage of it. Second of all, you also have to consider the fact that, yes, there was no home and away. There was no home court advantage, but the Lakers were the 1 seed in the West that year. So if anything, the Lakers were actually hurt by the fact that there was no home court advantage because they would have had home court advantage every series.
No, but I think that for guys like LeBron and others, like them not having to travel is actually in the favor of that type.
Right, but like the point, not traveling is always easier, but it's not going to be easier for you if it applies to every other team. That's the point.
I think more of my point is that I think they should have just scratched that year out of the book, in my opinion, rather than giving a title.
But like, why? So you're saying, like, instead of playing you're saying it would have been better to not play the season?
Yeah, because I don't think there was any, because there was too many issues. A lot of players, like there was a lot of COVID issues. People couldn't play. You weren't going to get fair competition. There was no fans in the stands. It just didn't feel proper to me.
Like, obviously, I mean, by the way, there's nothing in the world more absurd than having a bunch of cardboard cutouts. Like
that was ridiculous.
But okay, maybe that's a fair argument, but it's like they did play it.
I don't know.
Like, would you say the same thing about the 99 title from the Spurs? Because that was a strike year. You could say the same thing there. And it's like, you also have to remember the Lakers were 24-3 before the season shut down. They were one of the best. Like they were the Lakers.
No, I know that. Yeah.
The Lakers were the heavy favorites to win the title already before the season even shut down. So there's a good chance they probably win the title anyway.
But I feel like just to make one last point, I think strikes are different than what we dealt with COVID, because that was a health crisis compared to a strike, which is controlled by either the owners or by the Players Association. I think that's a different scenario in that regard.
But wouldn't the same logic kind of apply to it, which is, it was a shortened season?
Yes and no, because I would say yes, because again, obviously you are shortening the season for reasons that are out of control of the actual games. But for the health crisis, do you realize how long it took for us to get back to normalcy? Like, it took us 4 years to get back to normalcy. For a player strike, like when baseball had the player strike recently, it took us a month to get back.
But it didn't take that long for sports to get back to normal. I mean, for the most part, sports was like, by NFL season that year, most things were back to normal outside of the really excessive testing and players missing games because they had COVID. But by 2021, it felt like almost everything was kind of back to normal. Not the way it was talked about, but like the way the league functioned was mostly pretty normal.
I mean, it was pretty much just, like you said, the obscene amount of testing they had to do.
It did affect the NFL season a lot. I think it was a shortened season.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a shortened season, but like for the most part,
that was the first season we had games on Tuesday and Friday and all that nonsense. But
they had to cancel games because too many guys got COVID and things like that. So
guess what? Now we have Friday YouTube games because of it.
Yeah, and we're gonna have Christmas games. By the way, it is weird to me that the NFL didn't have Christmas games already. You would think that they would have done that already. That they would
They're
have,
basically now jumping on the NBA's turf, if you think about it in that regard.
yeah, and it's dumb that they wouldn't. It would be
No,
dumb.
I agree totally.
Um, so I do want to talk about this story. Time Magazine did a top 100 podcast list.
This is great.
So you sent. Hold on a second. You sent me the link to the story.
The Time Magazine. I have so many funny thoughts about this list and issues with this list.
So I'm a little. So here's a bunch of. So here's a list, the top 100 podcast list of all time, and they didn't include Joe Rogan on that list.
They didn't include Barstool.
They didn't include any Barstool podcasts. Did they include Caller Daddy?
I think it's deeper down on the list.
I mean, that's got to be up there. So at least they included a former Barstool podcast. And to me, it's like.
So according to them,
Bill Simmons, which I think Bill Simmons should be on there.
That is incredibly insane that they did not include Bill Simmons on this list.
No, I think they did include Bill
Or
Simmons.
it's deeper. It's deeper.
But I mean, like, to not include Joe Rogan, or pardon my take, is just beyond absurd and can only be explained by some type of personal bias.
Well, I started to say this to you before we started. Do you know a website called or a publication called Talkers Magazine?
Yes, I've heard of it.
So Talkers Magazine and they do that rankings every year of like top talk radio shows in the country. That's paid for by terrestrial radio. So that doesn't include satellite. It doesn't include digital. It doesn't include podcasts. So for many years before Howard Stern became a complete BS artist and his show became a nightmare, Howard should have been number one every year based on ratings, and he was never included on the Talkers ratings whatsoever.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to me, this list is absurd. It would be like if ESPN put out their list of top 75 or top 100 NBA players, which they do from time to time, and they didn't include Michael Jordan or LeBron.
Yeah.
And like they're like, we're gonna leave off Michael Jordan and LeBron. You're just like, what the fuck? It's legitimately that absurd to have top 100 podcasts and not include Joe Rogan or pardon my take.
Let's think about this for a second. So Time is not necessarily sports. It's not really a sports publication.
No.
That's why you're not seeing. Now there is there's one sports one that stands out to me, and it's the Kelsey Brothers podcast.
Yeah,
made
so the
list.
Kelsey Brothers podcast is top 100 podcasts of all time, and pardon my take, isn't. They included sports podcasts.
They did, but so according to this list, number one is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Excuse me?
That's the number one podcast ever? I've never even heard of it. I mean, maybe that says more about me than it does about them, but like,
I know who he is. I've seen the podcast. I've never listened to it. Let's go through some of this list.
If you mentioned Dak Shepard's name to me, I'd be like, you mean Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I would have said the same thing. So let's go down quickly some of these. Two Dope Queens is number two.
What is Two Dope Queens?
I apparently it's a WNYC. I'm sure you've heard the radio station before, WNYC. That's where they do NPR and all that nonsense. So that's out of the WNYC studios. Okay. Number 3, 30 for 30, the ESPN vehicle.
That's a podcast?
They have it as podcast form also.
So you can listen to a 30 for 30 on a podcast? But like it's supposed to be watched. Like that's.
They have audio forms of each one that they do. So I think they have audio perspectives of it. All right, let's continue. 99% Invisible. It's a Sirius XM podcast.
I've never heard of it.
All right, let's keep going. Acquired. Never heard of it.
What?
Articles of Interest. Never heard of it. Bear Brook, a true crime story. Now, the crime genre in podcasting has grown.
It's huge.
So that's the only reason why I think that one is probably up there. Let's see. Beautiful Anonymous. Never heard of that. The Big Dig. Never heard of that. The Big Picture. Never heard of that. Oh, that's a Spotify. Oh, that's a Ringer podcast. Okay. So that kind of makes sense. Now, the Bill Simmons podcast is right after. That's funny though that a podcast of his own company is before his.
I mean, the Bill Simmons podcast is huge, so that doesn't surprise me.
I'm just looking to see if I recognize any of these. Like, look at these Bodega Boys. Those are influencers.
That's a pretty big one. But
here, Call Her Daddy. It's in the top 10.
Yeah, Call Her Daddy's got to be. I agree with that being up there.
Ever since she left Barstool, she had a deal with Spotify for many years.
Yeah.
Then she left Spotify. Now she has like 2 channels over at Sirius, and she got like a $200 million deal out of Sirius. I mean, she's probably one of the bigger success stories that I've ever seen out of the Barstool. Let me just see if there's anything else that I quickly. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. That's Sirius. He has a whole network over there now. That kind of makes sense. Just scrolling really quick. Death, Sex, and Money. Never heard of that. Yeah, most of these I've never heard of. So, a lot of
you might as well put this podcast on that list.
Seriously, a lot of NPR stuff is on this list.
Does anybody listen to NPR?
First of all, did you see the news that public funding is going away? So NPR and all that stuff is basically going to be gone because Trump basically shut down the public funding for it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know how true it is, but yeah, I've heard that. I mean, that has nothing to do with this list, but yes.
Good Hang with Amy Poehler, a Spotify podcast.
I mean, I'm looking at this list. I haven't heard of most of these. Binge Mode?
Never heard of it. I'm trying to scroll to find some of the sports stuff. Let me see if I can find anything else. Men in Blazers, which I've heard of before. That's a soccer podcast and a soccer network. Let's see.
Oh, Your Girlfriend?
Yeah, that one I've never heard of. Oh, here it is. Finally, I find New Heights with Jason and Travis Kelce. Finally.
So Jason and Travis Kelce's podcast is on there, but
Pardon My Take is not.
Joe Rogan isn't. Everything Joe Rogan's podcast is bigger than like TV shows.
Okay, so this is interesting. They put Pablo Torre Finds Out on this list. Now, he's gotten a lot of headlines as of late. He broke the NFL issues that they were colluding against the players. I would hold judgment off on that one. It's a really good podcast. I've listened to it.
I don't doubt that it's probably top 100.
But that's interesting that made it above Pardon My Take.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. But like, it just drives me crazy when you can't make a list like this and at least like it not even.
How about being subjective? But
just try to be objective. Like, that's really all it is. Like, Knick fans who were around in the 90s don't like Michael Jordan, but they're not going to say that Michael Jordan isn't like a top 2 player of all time at the very least. No, none of them would say that. So, like, I don't even get how with a straight face you can say Joe Rogan is not a top 100 podcast of all time.
What I'm noticing about this list is that it's New York Times, NPR, a lot of the political stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm noticing, with some sports sprinkled in a little. Like, some of these are entertainment. I've never heard of them. Like, I'm still scrolling. Oh, the tennis podcast. Like, who the hell has heard of the tennis podcast?
Literally nobody. The hosts, the producer, maybe.
It's a podcast from The Athletic. And The Athletic Podcast Network is not even that old.
No.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Like, if you're going to look at a top 100 list, whether it's podcasts, whether it's athletes, whether it's technology, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because I'm I'm just laughing because we're literally scrolling through as we're finishing this episode. And I have not heard of most of these. Wiser Than Me with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Elaine's podcast?
Yes. Oh, WTF with Mark Maron. See, that's
a good one.
That's a good podcast.
That's actually a pretty big one.
Yeah, like some of these I've just and I'm at the end of the list. But my point is, this is insane. Pardon my take not being on this list.
And Joe Rogan not being on that list. Everything that goes on the Joe Rogan podcast makes news. People are begging to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan, like especially politicians, and Joe Rogan usually turns them down.
I mean, Portnoy's been on the podcast for crying out loud. Like,
yeah,
I've seen Elon was on Portnoy's podcast. I mean, you're telling me
Rogan's podcast.
I mean Rogan. Oh, yes. My point is, everyone's been on Rogan's podcast.
Everybody relevant.
True. But how is this not on the list? How is Rogan? How is Pardon My Take? How are these not on the list?
I think is the biggest sports podcast in the world, or at least in the country.
And like some people are going to be assholes about it because they're going to say, "Oh, Barstool this and Barstool that." I don't care. It is the most successful sports podcast, of our generation.
Yeah, and it's like not even really all that close.
They've had more sports guests than I could count on that show.
Reach is huge. Joe Rogan's reach is huge.
So this list is very subjective, not objective.
Correct.
And it's very opinionated based. I've read some of the blurbs as well that they say, "Oh, well, this is great and this is great." That's opinion. I
mean, to me, it's like when they like pretend. It's like when these people pretend that like certain comedians are so much funnier than others. Like, don't tell me that like Amy Schumer is like funnier than like Dave Chappelle or like come on.
or Chris Rock or
right. No, they're not. Like, you don't think that.
I found the person, by the way, who did the article. I might reach out to them and see if we can get them on a show. Because
what are the odds that they respond?
That's a challenge for me because I've reached many people before to be on show.
A lot more people. You've reached some people I thought would never talk, including Jordan Hudson, by the way.
That was completely by accident because that was a reel that was posted on Instagram.
Yeah, it's pretty weird to me that we're on Jordan Hudson's radar, which by extension means we might be on Bill Belichick's radar.
We got rejected at the same time because like, "Oh, I don't need you." I'm like, "All right, whatever. We really don't need you."
Maybe we should Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick just knows about us.
That'd be great if that was the case. But long story short, like I said, take this list with a grain of salt. It's written by Time Magazine. Magazines are really a thing of the past, to be quite honest. And no Pardon My Take, no Joe Rogan. I'm sure there's podcasts we're leaving out also, but it's a bad list.
Yeah. So, all right. That's our show this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Nick Morgasen. You can follow us across social media at MTGP ETB. You can follow them at the Bench Network at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Nick at and Morgasen Radio. See you guys next week.